Fly larvae removed from baby leopard's nose. What happened next is unbelievable. The young leopard cub's labored breathing was the first sound Dr. Sarah Chen heard as she approached the makeshift field clinic. Each inhale came with a soft whistling wheeze that spoke of blocked airways and mounting distress. The cub, barely 3 months old, lay curled on a blanket inside the transport crate, its spotted coat dull with exhaustion, and its small chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow movements. Rangers had found the cub alone near the edge of Kruger National Park, separated from its mother during the chaos of a territorial dispute between adult leopards. What initially appeared to be simple abandonment had revealed itself as something more urgent when the rescue team noticed the cub's difficulty breathing through its nose. Its tiny nostrils were completely blocked, forcing the young predator to breathe exclusively through its mouth, a dangerous situation that left it vulnerable to dehydration and unable to nurse properly. Dr. Chen knelt beside the crate, moving with the deliberate slowness that comes from years of working with frightened wildlife. The cub's golden eyes tracked her movements, pupils dilated with stress and confusion. There was no aggression in its gaze, only the weary resignation of a creature too young to understand its predicament but old enough to sense danger. Its small pink tongue hung slightly from its mouth, a sign of the respiratory distress that had been building for days. The examination revealed the true scope of the problem. Dozens of fly larvae had taken up residence in the cub's nasal passages, their pale bodies visible just inside the nostrils when Dr. Chen used a small penlight to peer into the blocked airways. The infestation had likely begun when the cub was still with its mother, starting as just a few eggs deposited by opportunistic flies and growing into a life-threatening blockage as the larvae matured and multiplied. Each breath the cub took created a soft, desperate sound that seemed to echo the urgency of its situation. Without intervention, the growing mass of parasites would eventually block its airways completely. The young leopard had already begun showing signs of malnutrition, unable to nurse effectively while mouth breathing, and its energy reserves were dangerously low. Dr. Chen prepared her instruments with practiced efficiency, selecting the finest forceps and gentlest sedatives available. The procedure would require delicate precision. Too aggressive, and she risked damaging the cub's delicate nasal tissues. Too conservative, and the larvae would continue their destructive presence. The sedative took effect gradually, and the cub's rapid breathing slowed to a more manageable rhythm, though the whistling sound remained constant. As she positioned the first pair of forceps near the cub's nostril, Dr. Chen noticed how the young leopard's ears remained alert despite the sedation, still monitoring the sounds around it with the hypervigilance of a wild creature in an unfamiliar environment. Its small paws, perfectly formed but still soft with youth, twitched occasionally as deeper waves of sedation took hold. "Easy, little one," she whispered, beginning the painstaking work of extraction. The first larva emerged intact, pale and segmented, followed quickly by another. With each successful removal, a bit more air seemed to flow through the cub's blocked passages, and Dr. Chen felt the weight of responsibility that came with holding such a young life in her hands. The afternoon light filtered through the clinic windows, casting gentle shadows across the scene as the slow, methodical work of healing began. The extraction process demanded a patience that measured time in heartbeats rather than minutes. Dr. Chen worked with the methodical precision of someone who understood that each movement could mean the difference between healing and harm. Her forceps moved in steady, deliberate motions, grasping each larva with just enough pressure to maintain hold without crushing the parasite, which could release toxins into the cub's already inflamed nasal passages. The young leopard's response to the procedure revealed the remarkable adaptability of wild creatures under stress. Despite the sedation, its body remained coiled with the tension of a predator, even in vulnerability. Each time Dr. Chen's instruments entered its nostril, the cub's ears flattened slightly against its head, a reflexive gesture that spoke of deeply ingrained survival instincts. Yet as the minutes passed and the breathing passages began to clear, something subtle shifted in the cub's posture. Dr. Chen's assistant, Ranger Mike Thorne, held a small container to collect the extracted larvae, counting each pale, segmented body as it was removed. The infestation was more extensive than either had initially anticipated. 43 larvae in total, ranging from newly hatched to nearly mature specimens that had been feeding on the cubs' nasal tissues for weeks. The inflammation caused by their presence had swollen the passages almost completely shut, creating the life-threatening blockage that had brought the cub to the edge of survival. With each successful extraction, the whistling sound that had marked the cub's every breath began to soften. Air moved more freely through passages that had been blocked for so long that the young leopard seemed confused by the sensation of breathing without struggle. Its pink tongue, which had hung from its mouth in constant need of air, began to retract as nasal breathing became possible once again. The most challenging larvae were those that had burrowed deepest into the nasal cavity, requiring Dr. Chen to use a fiber optic scope to locate and extract them without causing additional trauma. The cub tolerated these intrusions with remarkable stoicism, its golden eyes remaining fixed on Dr. Chen's face whenever they were open, as if studying this strange creature who brought discomfort but also, somehow, relief. "Almost there, sweetheart," Dr. Chen murmured as she worked to remove one of the final larvae. The breakthrough moment came when the last of the major blockages was cleared from the left nostril. For the first time in weeks, the cub drew a full breath through its nose, and the sound was like silence. No whistling, no wheezing, just the quiet rush of air moving freely through passages designed by evolution for exactly this purpose. The change in the cub's breathing pattern was immediate and profound. Its chest rose and fell in deeper, slower rhythms, and its small body seemed to settle into the blanket with the first hint of genuine relaxation it had experienced since the infestation began. As Dr. Chen cleaned and medicated the irritated nasal passages, the cub's behavior underwent a remarkable transformation. The wariness never fully left its eyes. It remained a wild creature with all the caution that ensured survival, but something new appeared alongside the vigilance. When Dr. Chen's hand moved near its head, the cub no longer flinched away. Instead, it held still with what could only be described as tolerance, perhaps even a primitive understanding that this human presence meant healing rather than harm. The final stage of the procedure involved applying a gentle antiseptic wash to prevent secondary infection in the traumatized tissues. The cub's response to this treatment revealed the depth of the trust that had developed during the painstaking extraction process. Rather than struggling against the unfamiliar sensation, it remained calm, its breathing now so quiet and natural that the clinic seemed filled with a new kind of peace. As Dr. Chen completed her work and stepped back to observe her patient, the afternoon light had shifted toward evening, casting longer shadows across the clinic floor. The cub lay with its head raised for the first time since arriving, its nostrils clear and functioning, its golden eyes bright with the energy of an animal no longer fighting for every breath. The cub's first clear breath through both nostrils was interrupted by a sound that made every human in the clinic freeze. A low, rumbling growl drifted through the open windows, carrying with it the unmistakable authority of an adult leopard. Dr. Chen's hand paused over the medical supplies as Ranger Mike Thorne moved silently toward the window, his experienced ears recognizing the particular pitch and intensity that marked a mother searching for her young. Outside, barely visible in the dappled shadows of the acacia trees, a female leopard stood at the forest's edge. Her golden coat blended seamlessly with the evening light filtering through the leaves, but her presence was undeniable. She had been watching, waiting, following the scent trail that had led her human captors to bring her cub to this strange place filled with unfamiliar sounds and smells. The cub's response was immediate and instinctive. Its small ears pricked forward, rotating toward the sound of its mother's voice, and for the first time since the rescue began, it attempted to stand. The movement was unsteady, the sedation still affecting its coordination, but the intent was clear. Every fiber of the young leopard's being recognized that call, responding to a bond that transcended the trauma of separation and the confusion of human intervention. Dr. Chen made the decision that would define this rescue. Rather than securing the cub for transport to a rehabilitation facility, she quietly began preparing for an immediate release. The mother's presence changed everything. Wild leopards who lose their cubs to human intervention often abandon their territory and sometimes their surviving offspring. But this female had tracked her cub across miles of challenging terrain, demonstrating the kind of maternal dedication that gave the young leopard its best chance for long-term survival. The team worked with practiced efficiency to prepare the cub for reunion. The transport crate was moved closer to the forest edge, positioning it so the mother could approach while maintaining her comfort zone among the trees. Dr. Chen administered a reversal agent to counteract the remaining sedation, knowing that the cub would need full mobility to navigate the journey back to its natal territory. As the medication took effect, the cub's movements became more coordinated. It stood fully for the first time in days, its breathing strong and silent through clear nasal passages. The transformation was remarkable, from the struggling, mouth-breathing creature of the morning to this alert young predator ready to rejoin its wild life. The mother's second call came closer, a softer vocalization that seemed to carry reassurance rather than command. She had moved to within 50 meters of the clinic, her powerful form now clearly visible as she tested the air for her cub's scent, confirming what her ears had already told her. "Go to your mama," Dr. Chen whispered as she opened the transport crate. The reunion unfolded with the quiet dignity characteristic of leopard behavior. The cub emerged from the crate with cautious steps, then broke into an unsteady run toward the tree line. The mother remained motionless until her offspring reached the safety of the forest shadows, then stepped forward to nuzzle the cub with careful precision, checking for injuries, confirming identity, re-establishing the bond that human intervention had temporarily interrupted. As the evening light faded to purple, the two leopards melted into the forest with the fluid grace of creatures returning to their rightful world. The last glimpse was of spotted coats disappearing among the acacia shadows, leaving only the whisper of grass brushing against silent paws, and the knowledge that sometimes the greatest rescue is simply stepping aside to let nature reclaim her own.